Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next YouTube channel member and Patreon exclusive video. But I think with this one I'm actually just going to put it up on the main channel as a sort of like December kind of Christmas present style thing. Not something I'd usually do. But I'll also try and make this more of a proper like discussion slash kind of review of the game as opposed to these video game videos when I do them as exclusive videos where they're more of just sort of like playing while chatting style things. So yeah, getting into this, I suppose, I have at this point finished the Pokedex. So you see, caught 400, battled 400, and so I'm in the end game, meaning that I'm mainly sort of hunting for shiny Pokemon, doing the higher level Terra raid battles, doing the sort of EV, IV training type stuff to help with those battles and so on. And that's where I'm at in the game. I've done most of the kind of content like that is actually here. So at the moment, if you can see on the map there, mini map down the bottom, there is two mass outbreaks basically right next to each other. There is a Marill one just here, and then just up here there should be a Magnemite one. So this is interesting to see them so close together. Okay, so there's the first couple of Magnemites spawning in. And obviously this is your best chance at getting shiny Pokemon. So at this point, with the Pokedex completed, I have the shiny Charm. And I have defeated quite a few of these Magnemites and Marill. Now, again, I don't really know the exact method, how exactly this works. Can you only do one at a time or not? But as far as I'm aware, the idea is that if you kill like 60 of a Pokemon in a mass outbreak, you increase the shiny chances of finding them, and you can do the whole go to a picnic to kind of respawn, despawn the Pokemon and stuff like that. Okay, here's a random Cyclizar that has attacked me. I am just going to ignore this since I already have a Cyclizar. And now I already have a shiny Pokemon. So you can see here, this Azumarill here, if I switch this out to the front, you can see it's shiny. I caught it as a shiny Marill yesterday. Well, I suppose yesterday night when it had already switched over to these mass outbreaks, and it has since evolved. So that's really cool. Other shiny Pokemon I have caught, two others. If I go to my box, I think it's 11 or 12. Yeah. So you can see here there's Fortress. I have the Gold Fortress, that's the shiny one. And I did get a Gyarados outbreak where I caught shiny Gyarados, which everyone of course knows. Now I definitely would like a shiny Magnemite. But it's a little bit more difficult to, I suppose, see correctly, which gets into, I suppose, one of the biggest talking points about this game in terms of a general review, which is that, on one hand, it is probably the kind of, in a way, best a mainline Pokemon game has been. On the other hand, technically, it feels like it is probably one of the worst Pokemon games that we've had. Just with regards to, you've heard all the tales about bugs and stuff like that, how the pop-in isn't really that great, graphically it's not even that fantastic even if it did run that well, and all these sort of problems that do occur. And I think both are true. Both have to be factored in, but it's sort of about which one means more when you're doing the review and giving the sort of criticism and feedback. And the reality of it for me is that Pokemon mainline games are pretty much almost by default good. You'd be amazed and shocked if they properly got core details of a mainline Pokemon game wrong. Of course Pokemon works, the battling system works, Game Freak know how to design good new Pokemon. This is, I think, a pretty good generation of Pokemon. The problem is that they've always been behind technically, and they seem to have kind of struggled as they've switched to 3D, and especially now as they've switched to kind of open world. They don't really exactly know what how to make this all kind of work properly, and this is why they've got rid of the full kind of national dex, every Pokemon being in every game, and some of these other kind of limitations and so on. And there's all these reasons for why it is the way it is. But it does feel like they are a studio that do struggle technically, whether that's because of the amount of time that they're given. Because again, Legends Arceus, which I think had a slightly different team. Obviously there was some, I think, crossover, but you know, that game came out actually earlier on this year. And I think actually looks better than this. Now, admittedly, Arceus is sort of like a bunch of open zones, as like a test in a way for an open world, whereas this is kind of full open world. But I think Arceus was a nicer looking game at its core. And it has to be noted that that is the case. So yeah, at the moment I'm just seeing if there is any Marill Azumarill. Because, again, I did this last night, but as far as I'm aware, as long as the spawn is there, the game registers, I think, that you've defeated, like, say, 60 Marill, and so I still have a relatively high chance of finding all that stuff. But yeah, that's what it comes down to, is that, for me personally, I have not encountered that many, like, proper bugs that really affect gameplay or look silly. I've seen a few times where Pokemon have spawned like in kind of like rock walls or in just kind of rocks out on the field, which has been a little bit frustrating and a little bit weird. Other than that, the camera maybe in certain battles on weird terrain has gotten maybe caught in the ground and I've had to do the battle from a really weird position. But I haven't encountered that many bugs. It's mainly just the fact that the game looks alright if you don't focus on anything too much. But then you start to really notice when you have to do stuff like, say, shiny hunting here, that, like, yeah, the game just doesn't feel quite clear enough about this. Like, shiny Magnemite, as far as I'm aware, is sort of a kind of faded gold color. And then one of the main ways, I think, to distinguish it is that it doesn't have the blue and red bits on the side. But just from a distance, it's hard to fully tell, because you can just sort of tell, like, okay, it's metallic in some way. I'm kind of looking for a darker color, but can't quite make it out because they're relatively small. And then there are smaller Pokemon who are just out in the overworld like this. Why is there no like shiny notification other than you have to know what exactly the shiny Pokemon looks like? Which is fine for really obvious ones like Red Gyarados, but doesn't work for stuff like this. And then like, yeah, like the textures on the most of the terrain isn't really fantastic. There's potential here, you can tell. It's not all bad, but, you know, it's also not, like, amazing either. So yeah, I don't want to spend the whole game, the whole video just here kind of checking for shiny Pokemon. I'll just do one more picnic to do a quick check, and then we'll kind of head off and do things. While we're here just looking at this, this is the picnic is also how you do the kind of new breeding method. It's basically you just limit your party just to the 2 Pokemon you want to breed, and eventually the eggs just show up in the basket there. I think that's actually relatively nice. I do wish, on a more kind of technical point, the boxes were easier to organize. They still don't have like very clear-cut kind of filtering systems that make it super easy. In that, I have a lot with a full Pokedex. I have a lot of Pokemon in their boxes, and it can be really easy to lose track of sort of like my core team in terms of, like, say, Talonflame has Flame Body for hatching eggs. The normal colored Azumarill, the Reverum, and the Skeledirge are some of the main Pokemon I use for like Terra raids. Persian I have with me mainly for catching legendary Pokemon, so, and if I do happen to fight a Pokemon where like I do need to weaken it, but I'm at the risk of killing it, so this has like False Swipe, that's why I have it around with me. But that can be kind of like tricky and awkward just with the way the boxes work. But fundamentally that system is quite interesting. I will readily say I have not interacted all that much with the sandwich system in the game. Mainly because I only have a certain amount of Herba Mystica, which is how you get most of the like level 3. I think all the level 3 stuff comes from that. And I just don't feel like I have enough to really warrant doing it, which would increase my chances of finding shiny Pokemon. But I don't want to waste those materials until I get more of them, because the drop rates for it feels really bad from the Terra raid battles. which is also sort of where there's technical problems with the online, the amount of lag in a lot of those Terra raid battles, and then just, I think, in a way, like structurally, they feel weird, because I didn't play Sword and Shield, so I have no experience with the, what were they called before, max raid battles. So this is my first time doing those type of battles in Pokemon, and I think there's a cool potential in it, and that like it's a boss where like 4 Pokemon face 1. I don't like how I feel like I fundamentally don't understand the kind of turn order thing. I don't think the game makes it like as clear as it probably needs to be, like when, or in a way, like what a specific Terra Pokemon is like capable of. And it does feel a bit random when like, oh, don't bother doing stat boosting moves because it's just taking them all off your Pokemon, and what determines that, and all this sort of stuff. It just feels a little bit weird. There was some issues relating to like how it calculates damage with other Pokemon. I didn't really get a lot of that. And then just in general, I suppose getting into that here, let me just go online, and we'll go into that here while we're talking about it. Because again, shiny hunting takes a long time. There is very little chance in just a couple of minutes on a video here that I just randomly have a shiny Pokemon. But I have 3 from relatively little grinding in terms of hunting for shiny Pokemon, so it definitely works. So yeah, we're going Terra raids here. And I've done quite a few 5s. Finding the few 6s I can do has been a bit of a challenge. And then the level 7 Charizard one I did manage to do twice. I probably should have done it more, but you know, I just left it at that. Okay, cool. This one I should be able to do. So it's a level 5 Salamence Dragon. So my Azumarill, which I used for the Charizard battle, should be also good here. And this is sort of the problem. When you do these online ones, it feels like you have seconds when they come up to make the decision of like, okay, what is that Pokemon? What is that Terra type? Which Pokemon? Do I have a Pokemon that is capable of actually playing a role in a team to take that one down? And if you don't make that decision within like seconds, you don't get to join. And that's the kind of problem here. It takes like a minute and a half plus, I think, to check for new postings, and it just feels very, very slow. Okay, here we go. We're in. I just want to make sure this is... Oh no, this is the wrong Azumarill. I need to make sure. Yeah, I'm using my level 100 one here. Otherwise, I would have been going in with a level 34 one that isn't even properly trained. Okay, so this should be okay here. Because you do often see people make the mistake of feeling that like they either focus on one thing or the other. They only focus on what the Terra is, the Terra type is, or they only focus on what the Pokemon is and ignore one or the other. Whereas you need both. You sort of offensively, your moves need to do super effective damage against the Terra type, but you need to be resistant basically to that original Pokemon's original typing, because that's the moves it's going to use. So in this case, he's going to be using Dragon, and if I remember correctly, the only thing that's really going to challenge us here is probably going to be... okay, so I'll just sheer, go all out to reverse the effects of Intimidate. So we went -1, now we're back to neutral. Okay, belly drum on that one. So none of its attacks are going to do crazy like that, because Fairy type is immune to Dragon. And then, okay, there's a little bit of lag here, but okay. He used Play Rough. I used it. And then you see, look there, the health bar just went down to nothing. Pause, pause, pause. While the game calculates what on earth is going to happen here, what's going to do. And we've won. Yes. So you can see there, that's an example of like, okay, the team was fully prepared, and we just immediately won. But a lot of the time, you go in and those situations are just like, they just don't happen. because that one was so quick, it was hard to see, like, nothing really happened, we didn't really take damage and so on. But when you do get into a bit one where it's a bit more against the odds, it could feel really unfair that there's so much pausing for like animations and so on. Didn't get anything great. Like, I'm really wanting the Herba Mystica and stuff like that, but I'm not sure if they actually come from this. You can get them from 5 stars, but I think this new event 5 stars, I don't think you can quite get them from. So we'll have to maybe try and look for another 5 star. And this is the problem here, is like even trying to prepare for them, for these online random ones that just pop up on the board. Unless you happen to have the right combination to go up against that listing that's just popped up, unless they do a big event where it's really clear, this is the Charizard Dragon Terra type, prepare your ultimate Pokemon to take this one on. And most people did it with an Azumarill or a Sylveon or something like that. It can be, you know, challenging. So like on my team at the moment, I really only have probably 3 Pokemon that are kind of properly, in a way, prepared for specific raid battles, and that is my Skeledirge, my Revavroom, and my okay, so wait, what can I do this one? Fairy type. Yeah, okay, I think I should be able to do this one, even though it's a 6 star. Sylveon. But then like I'm like miscalculating here. If I use my Revavroom here, Poison will be good against the grass, and it's fairy type, which I should be pretty strong against. I think this one should be good if it lets me in, and this is the problem here. You find one that you want, you click on it, and it feels like 1 in 5 they give it to you. In this case, the Salamence and the Tyranitar ones are part of an event, so there's loads of them. But yeah, you see, they wasn't able to join, and I think if I try again, it'll do the same thing. And then I'm just waiting for new postings. I feel like they just need to show you more than just 8 or something like that here, because it's not fun. Because my sister, who's doing the same thing when she's playing her Scarlet copy, doing Terra raids, it basically has the same problem of like, you finally find one that you think you can do, you don't get into it, you check for new postings, and it pretty much repeats itself, and it can be very random as you actually get to do it or not. So yeah, weren't able to join, but I can check for new postings now. So this one, yeah, should be able to do this one. So it's a 5 star against a Flapple. So I should be able to use a Azumarill here. But it is grass type, this thing. But and this is where you just have to accept that, like, I don't really have a more ideal one necessarily. Or actually, wait, no, because this is fairy type, I should probably use my Revavroom. And I'm strategizing here, but then I am not able to actually do it. That's a Umbreon, isn't it? Fairy type. Can I do this one? And it feels like this is just the common experience here with this, of like, you just have to get lucky. And so trying to purposely like grind Terra raid battles just doesn't work too well. Nothing happening. I hope they fix some of this stuff. I think they said, like, I think Pokemon Company and Nintendo both came out and like apologized for effectively the technical like state of the game. Magnezone. Can I do that? Would that be good? I guess I'll try just to see if it lets me. But I don't know if my Revavroom is ideal for this. So like this is where I'm going into this one. I kind of feel like, I'm not sure if this is the most ideal selection here. But all I know is like I have it's Poison Terra type against Fairy type Magnezone, and I should resist his Steel moves, and I only really worry about, I suppose, Electric. But okay, Abandoned, and it's just like, what was that about? Beyond that, like there have been like improvements. Like I like how easy it is to just EV and IV train Pokemon. Like if you just have enough money, you can buy bottle caps to give your Pokemon like max EVs. You can just buy the items to EV train them like in the usual method, or you can just very easily buy all the protein, iron, and stuff like that you want. And so yeah, if you have enough money, you can just in like say 5 minutes literally train your Pokemon, and using the mints to get its different ability, nature, get the nature you want. Ability capsules you can just buy as well. So if you just want to switch between 2 normal abilities a Pokemon has, there's that. Egg moves you can do by breeding, or there's the new Mirror Herb kind of functionality where you can get them that way. They have streamlined that process really well, in my opinion. The problem is just sort of, what are you using those high level Pokemon for? It's good that it's there because you probably need a huge selection of strong Pokemon to be able to effectively do a lot of these Terra Raid battles, and so on. But I wish there was more of a, need to use the strong Pokemon within the battles within the game. That sort of thing. So it does mean that the only item that is difficult to get for training your Pokemon is the ability Patches, which give your Pokemon its hidden ability. I have, I think, 2 or 3 of them from the Charizard raid battle, and I'm saving them just for the right Pokemon to give it the right ability. I'm kind of still deciding which exact Pokemon I want to use it on, and so on. But I like that you don't need to mess around with how time-consuming and long it took in previous generations, and so on. It's gradually improved over time, and is now at a point where it's like you can really efficiently put Pokemon together. The TM system I found a bit weird. Like, I like that you could just find them all over the place. But I found I basically didn't make a TM until pretty much right at the end of the game. Just because, like, until you start to really just get everything from the Pokedex, there are just certain materials from Pokemon that you just don't have. So there's that. Can I do this? Which Pokemon is this? Is this one of the new ones? So Grass. So okay, my Poison Terra type will be good against that, and I should resist Flying and other moves, I think. So hopefully we can get in and actually do this, because like this is, in my mind, like a very representative experience of like basically all of the time I've spent doing Terra Raid battles. Sure, if you host one that's on your map, you get all the time in the world to choose and pick the perfect Pokemon, and you can kind of create the ideal Pokemon for that one. But you're still then reliant on getting a team capable of actually doing it. Okay, so it's a Braviary. Okay, so that's good. Not taking much damage at all. Keep poison jabbing. Okay, got the poison. Doesn't do too much against raid Pokemon, but okay. Okay, missed. Suddenly, the team is oops, called sheer defense. Okay, there's the shield. Okay, so this should get my Terra Orb. Okay, heal. Oh, I think one of them fainted, but okay. Okay, it's burn, so that's good. And I am just completely walling it with this, so... Okay, so this is actually a pretty decent choice. So I'll Terastallize, Poison Jab. And speaking of Terastallization, I suppose, I think the actual game mechanic is pretty good. I don't like the hats. I think there was probably a better way to show what type it is. I think it would have been okay just to have a color associated. Maybe the game just have like a logo, the logo of that type just on screen above the Pokemon rather than it being part of the actual design. It just, I think, looks a little silly. Oh, yeah, and suddenly, it's just all gone wrong. And there's an example of just sort of the lag happening. Now, I think I get what happened here, where I think 2 or 3 fainted one after the other, so the game didn't even get to give you the warning that, like, it's preparing to end the battle. Or anything like that, so I don't know if that was lag or if that's just how it does it, but it's frustrating. It's definitely frustrating. I do almost feel like the 5-star ones are like tuned not great. Whoa, what's going on here? That is an interesting bug. Oh no, it's fixed itself now. Okay, that moved. It fixed itself. And I'm in this area, so what have I got here? Just taking a quick check for some shinies. And the Magnemite, I assume going online, has respawned the Pokemon. Just checking. And this is one of the things where just because I haven't seen a shiny Magnemite in the game, I'm not sure if I'm like missing it or not. Even though like I know it's like a darker color, I just wish it was a bit visually more clear. So yeah, I don't think there's any stuff going on here. So what I'll do now is I'll go to Area 0, which is definitely part of one of the best sections in the game. I suppose speaking of the main story, I didn't really get what from a lot of the marketing and trailers, like what they were really saying with the 3 stories that you can follow. But actually in practice, I'm like, oh, I see what's going on here. In an open world, you need more than just the 8 gyms. So basically, here are these other gym-like challenges with Team Star bases, and the other one was the Titan Pokemon with the Herba Mystica. I actually thought that all worked really well. I wish either the game just told you what level you should be basically for each of these things. Instead, they kind of just go with this vague thing of like, you can technically challenge any gym leader, do whatever order you want, but you can't really, because if you go straight to the last gym, you basically are forcing yourself to skip other gyms that you will encounter along the way, and your Pokemon will not be the right level to do that gym. And then you'll go back and do the previous gyms and just be incredibly over leveled. So I immediately, after basically doing 2 or 3 of the early ones, just found a guide online for like, this is the level order of basically all of the 3 stories that you should go through it with, and did it in that way. That way I didn't have to hold back too much in terms of leveling up, and I could just do it in the right order. That's the way kind of I did it, because I don't like putting too many restrictions on my playthrough, so I just did it that way to make the game as good and challenging as it kind of could be without doing too much else. So yeah, here is Area 0, definitely one of the cooler areas in the game. I like that, you know, we're going here to basically the origin of terrestrialization, and so in the top areas you see little bits and pieces of the kind of terrestrial crystals. As well as, you know, the Paradox Pokemon here. So I have Violet, so we get the sort of futuristic Pokemon, like the future Delibird here, Iron Bundle, which I am not prepared to fight. I need to switch what Pokemon I have at the front, don't I? It won't let me. I assume if I tried to run away there, it wouldn't let me because I'm so underleveled. But yeah, the Paradox Pokemon are cool. They're all, I think, 570 base stat total. They're all basic Pokemon, none of them evolve, even though they're clearly based on Pokemon that otherwise do evolve. Which is a really cool dynamic, and again, it's during this section of the game, when you finish the 3 main stories, that you actually come here, and in my mind you get the actual story of the game. Yes, the Team Star stuff has the kind of bullying storyline, which I thought was alright, if not amazing. The Arven story, I felt at least had a basic kind of emotional core to it, with the Mabostiff reveal and him trying to get the Herba Mystica to heal his kind of favorite partner Pokemon. That was nice. Nemona, I suppose, with the gyms and stuff like that, was just, it just felt like the basic one, but I think the, oh no, is my shiny Azumarill gonna get taken out? Yes. Yeah, like Nemona, I think is a pretty good rival ultimately. So it was one of those things where like it was fine, but I definitely wish there was a little bit more story to kind of just going through the gyms and stuff like that in general. Whereas I think ultimately the game probably did feel a bit like too like they have all of the big reveals and details happen like at the end, which, you know, you expect to a certain degree, but I really feel they just had next to nothing for most of the story, because especially even at the start of the game, you go to the school. Like, you spend the first like hour or two in a way just going through the first couple of routes, getting to the school. You get there and they basically tell you to like leave immediately. So I did one class at school and then left. And basically, when I returned to the school for almost the next time, I was the Pokemon champion. And then I started doing some of the school stuff to, you know, because there was actually like some rewards from like, you know, doing all the like little conversation paths with the different teachers and so on. But, you know, like I said, this is where it all happens. And it's cool because suddenly the stories that were a little bit more minor, you take a bit of each of those stories along with you. It's you, Nemona, Penny, and Arven coming down to Area Zero on this quest. And you notice that, like, oh, you didn't really interact with, like, the professor, like, the entire game. Because they're saving the professor until, like, the end here. And so those reveals were all, like, super cool when they happened. That, you know, the professor, Arven's, in my case, father, died because of some of the experiments down here. And that the professor you've been interacting with is actually this robot kind of AI thing. And you get all this history about terrestrialization down here. And there's still mysteries about, like, there's clearly some other legendary Pokemon that is the origin of terrestrialization that I suppose we're going to get in one of the DLCs, since I assume they'll do it like they did in Sword and Shield. Iron Hands. Chansey. So yeah, like the disc Pokemon I thought was a very cool reveal. The whole idea of like the time machine, and then you read some of the stuff in like the post game in the Violet book, and they seem to almost be implying that like there's this weird thing, is the machine more about like imagination and it's maybe not necessarily a time machine, or is it? Because at least in my game there's the kind of like what seems like some weird fusion of the three Sacred Blade Pokemon, what are they called, Musketeer Trio, Virizion and so on, whereas I think in Scarlet it's what, the three legendary dog Pokemon. It looks like a Suicune. So that's kind of an interesting one, like, because they have to come back to that at some point. Earthquake? I don't think I'd actually had an Earthquake TM before, so that's fine. And then yeah, just on the TM thing again, like I found like you find, especially if you explore, you find enough TMs to the point where I feel like you almost like never really need to interact with the TM making system, which is the pretty much like the only use for Pokemon materials as far as I'm aware. So that just seems a little bit like weird, I guess. Music down here is fantastic. The final battle was actually quite good. Obviously it completely depends like what level you're on and so on. I was pretty much always like right on pretty much the exact level of like all the kind of gym leaders in the final battle, so I never felt like I was over level, but that just with playing, you know, somewhat intelligently, we were able to get through it, most of it, no problem. Only sort of unfortunate thing there is that the actual champion, whatever her name is, they make Glimmora her signature like ace Pokemon, which she sends out last. But Glimmora is like a setup Pokemon. So it's really weird because the battle would be like so much more difficult if she led with Glimmora, because then you'd have to deal with like toxic spikes the whole fight. But instead they come out right at the end when you're just destroying her basically. So that was the only thing, is that like I felt like the Elite Four was pretty easy and the champion was easy. So the only real challenge I think was sort of that final Nemona fight, and then the professor fight, basically, at the end, the AI. And that's just the thing, is like, again, there probably does need to be some sense of like introduce a basic difficulty system into the game. And I don't think you need to do anything crazy. I think just a little thing where it's just, would you like the other trainers to at least occasionally like switch out every so often? Would you like their teams to just be a little bit more kind of strategic with what they do? Just anything to just make it just feel a little bit better. Not saying everyone needs to have full full team of 6, competitively trained, crazy held items and stuff like that, but just there's always been, I think, with recent Pokemon games, just that sense where a slight difficulty bump would be nice. Otherwise, it's pretty easy to just, you know, do everything without too much challenge. But yeah, just kind of exploring Area Zero here a little bit. I probably do need to catch another version of, I think, most of these Paradox Pokemon, because I think I traded like my first of each type to my sister for all the past Pokemon in Pokemon Scarlet. I don't think there's necessarily any ones that I super want to use necessarily. Though I'm kind of interested in what's it called, Iron Thorns, the Tyranitar one, just because it looks very cool. Can't really remember where I actually got my Iron Thorns, but I'm pretty sure it was just up here, like towards the top and not down the bottom of Area Zero. But yeah, I think that's probably the big thing with the DLCs, is that they have the option to introduce like just as many Paradox Pokemon as they need to, if they want. Okay, there's Iron Hands. I suppose I should talk about trainer customization. This is probably one of my big kind of sticking points with this, in terms of just I think an inherently just negative point that is basically Game Freak, what are you doing? Why is there basically all the accessory customization you could possibly want, but then your core outfit, which is like 90% of the way your character looks, you only have 4 different school outfits for each season? I just find that to be such a stupid decision, because I think trainer customization, when they introduced it in like what Generation 6 X and Y, was probably one of the most like hyped kind of like fan favorite things that Game Freak did. And then I think they've pretty much had it in like all the other games to like a reasonable degree since then, even at Legend Arceus. And then this is just a one where they're like, no, you are locked into having to wear a school uniform the whole game. And I thought like in post game, like something like that, you'd unlock it, but it doesn't seem like that is the case. So I do hope that in one of the DLCs, one of the things that they do decide to add in is adding in clothing customization, so you don't have to wear the school uniform at all times. It just seems like such a weird restriction that only exists because they've decided that the theming of this game is that you're on a quest with the school. There's the Dunsparce. Whoa. There's a Glimmora on the wall. Garganacl. Very cool new Pokemon. I used one on my team pretty much the whole way through. Love the special ability it has, the new special move it has. the whole kind of purifying salt thing, and then rock salt, salt cure is the move. Very, very cool. And that's probably one of the Pokemon I will maybe competitively train up. I think it would be cool with like Ghost Terra typing, because Ghost gives it a couple of immunities. Then its ability would make it basically resistant to Ghost itself. So I think that could be interesting as more of a kind of support Pokemon. Oops. But yeah, the customization thing is just weird. In a way, it's sort of a unusual sort of praise of the game, that it feels like that is realistically one of the few non-technical points where I would be really critical of Game Freak in this game. So that is something that feels like it is fixable, but why was it ever like this in the first place? I don't really get why. Okay, so I'll head over here. Okay, there's an Iron Jugulus. Anything else to talk about, I suppose, while I'm here? So yeah, the trainer customization is definitely a problem. I think it is weird, the fact that going back to the progression and the levels of all the gyms and stuff like that, that there wasn't more of a kind of clearer path. So here's the secret area where I think this is the only location where you can get Iron Valiant or Roaring Moon in the other game, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, I think they need to find a way, if this is what they want to do, of make it so that you can go anywhere you want first. They need to have some sort of a level scaling thing with the gyms in some way. I think it just has to happen if they actually want this to be the way it works, because otherwise then there just is a clear path based on which level of gym leader is higher than the other. Sure, you can technically do it in whatever order you want, but it makes the game, not fun to fight when you're like so over leveled. So there needs to be something like that. And I think they kind of show you in a way what it could theoretically be when you do the gym leader rematches towards the end of the story, in the kind of post game before the Ace tournament, where you rematch the gym leaders at like level 60 or something like that. And I think it's the bug gym leader where you go to her. She talks about, I think, in her dialogue that, oh, I'm often like the first gym leader that people go to, so I often have to use my basically like weak bug Pokemon against beginner trainers. And so she effectively talks about how she always has these very like kind of like basic simple battles that means she pretty much always loses, whereas when she fights with her full team, she's got like a Heracross on the team, and she shows sort of the strength of like certain bug Pokemon are incredibly strong, which I thought was very cool. And I just wish there was a way where, like, during your main run, you could maybe do stuff like that. Maybe keep a weird typing until the end and see what, like, they do as, like, if they were the final gym leader that you were to fight. Similarly, like, say, like a Dragon gym leader from other games. What if you did them first? I think it would be very cool to go to the first gym and it be someone with a Dratini on, like, level 12. And just using the lower level Dragon Pokemon. Oh, there's an Iron Valley, which I believe I do need to get one. And this is really cool. I really like the look of this Pokemon because you can tell it is a complete mix of Gardevoir and Gallade. So that's cool. Okay, so let's try a quick ball here. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, so I'll just send out Persian because I think I'm gonna kill this with like almost anything I do. Okay, false swipe. There it is, down to 1 health. And I will use a... what do I have? I guess I'll go for the repeat ball. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. Probably should have Thunder Waved it before I started throwing the Pokeballs just to guarantee it, but I'll get there eventually with this. Just because I suppose this is one of the ones, I guess, it probably has like a pretty low catch rate, even among the Paradox Pokemon. This is going on surprisingly well. Wow. Okay, this doesn't seem to be working, so I'm going to, let's see, bag. I'm gonna revive Persian. I caught one before, but we'll see what happens. Okay. So it's 1 health, it's paralyzed. At this point, there's very little else I think I can do. I think for what I have left, you know, Dusk Ball? Do I have one? Let's see. At night or in dark places such as caves. So we are technically in a cave right now, so this should work. Okay. This is getting to the point where like this is feeling like more difficult than catching some of the like actual legendary Pokemon. But yeah, we must be getting into like Timer Ball range at this point. Okay, critical capture. That's weird. Took way longer than I think it should have. But I guess these are weird pseudo-legendary Pokemon. revive everyone. Now, just looking for another Iron Thorns, the Tyranitar. So I remember catching this out definitely on like the kind of green areas here. Surprisingly, the lower levels of the Area Zero, they're cool for when you get there in the story and stuff like that, but the Pokemon down there, it's pretty much just a bunch of Glamora, Iron Jugulus and stuff like that down there. This sort of looks like the sort of terrain I'd find it on, but... Well, there it is. Now, am I at all prepared for this? I'll switch this out. Put this up front. Hello. Of course. Okay. One thing I would say also is that I'm not the biggest fan of the like general camera angle for the battles. I just feel it's weirdly close and like restrictive that like I should be able to like find a better angle almost in some ways. But it's fine, I guess. False swipe. Okay, this is gonna take a while. Yeah, and this thing's electric as well, so I can't paralyze it. Aha! Terastal False Swipe. I think this is the first time I've ever terastalized my version. The weird diamond hat. I don't know how heavy that is. We're just gonna have to be Ultra Balls. Okay, another. It is weird that both of them required critical captures to get. Okay. Okay, there's that. So yeah, I guess I'll just go to the school for a little bit, just to kind of show off some of that stuff. Maybe look at the Violet book, just to, for some context, some of the stuff I was talking about. But yeah, like overall, like I like the game. Hopefully, some of the updates fix stuff like, you know, just making the online just feel a bit better. I'm not sure graphically, performance-wise, how much they're actually going to be able to do. Like, just look there. Look at the way the school is, and just look how, like, bad that, like, edges of the little details on the kind of the building look there. It's just what do you call this? This is like the weird, like, it's like has really bad, like, what, anti-aliasing or something like that. It just stands out so much. Like, it's like, look at the motion of the kind of little. It looks like it's like a screen or something like that that's moving when that should just be a building. It's so weird. And you can see, like, yeah, it doesn't really look that great. This is like the front door of the school, which is like the main, like, gimmick of the game, and it just doesn't look that good. But then there are Pokemon aspects that just are really well done here. Like I said, just how easy it is to train a Pokemon. And all that sort of stuff is really good. Okay, so here's the Violet book. No. Oh my god, why is this happening? Okay, so you can see here, this one's very interesting. Something Pokemon. While separated from the research team in the crater's depths, I found a strange entity. Whether it was a Pokemon or even alive at all, I know not. It bore why don't I know what that said? It bore something with layers of overlapping hexagons and gleamed brighter than gemstone. Viewed as a whole, it resembled a mysterious, brilliant disc. So I guess it's a disc Pokemon, which is kind of interesting. I can't wait to see what the actual reveal is on that eventually. Pokemon Varia Zero. And then yeah, the Monsters Varia Zero. Interesting. Yeah, this one's kind of interesting as well. Like, yeah, here's the weird 3 Sacred Sword Pokemon all together. Talk of imagination and stuff like that. And again, it seems to be a blend of all 3 of them together. Like, the head is clearly Virizion, the legs are the Cobalion or whatever it is. Interesting. And then there's all this like history about like the people who went on the first expedition down here. So I like that sort of setup in all things. And then if you do talk to the history professor's classes, she also explains like how long all that stuff has been around and so on. And like the class stuff is kind of interesting, but like I said, if you know Pokemon, you can sort of ignore it like completely. But there are some cool things like wait, what's going to be like? So you can see I still have a bunch of these to do. As far as I'm aware, one of them gives you a Galar region Meowth, and then from other ones you get other stuff like I think you get like 50 Dragon Terra shards and stuff like that. Because again, in terms of training your Pokemon, you can actually switch their Terra types in the eatery place, so that's interesting. But yeah, it is an interesting one now that I finished the Pokédex tab. for the most part, it does feel like I'm just shiny hunting and doing Terra raid battles and hoping to, you know, get the materials that I do want. Because I suppose looking into some of this stuff, like where is it here? So yeah, like protein, iron, carbos, calcium, zinc. You know, the stuff that actually like boosts your attack and HP up as well. They're somewhat expensive items, and even though you have lots of money, especially because from the Terra battles, yeah, this whole pocket here, you could sell all this stuff just for pretty much as much money as you want. So that stuff's fine. The feathers are also EV boosting, but by 1 instead of by 10. So that's good to have all them. Ability capsule is what switches normal abilities. Ability patch gets the rarer ability. The mints for all the different natures is all cool. What else we got here? Some of the more impressive items. Terra shards, then you have so you have rock Terra, have a lot of dragon Terra shards. And you have bottle caps, of course, as well. Important as well. So all that stuff is really cool to have. Again, subtle little things I'd like to see, even on the better parts of the game, that could be improved. But I do enjoy this game, I think is probably the main thing to say. But then you do get moments like this where you're just walking along and you look off in the distance and it's like, yeah, those buildings don't look great. Like, what's going on there? Why do they look like they're kind of like almost glowing in some ways? Like, why is it this kind of unpolished looking ultimately? And then you notice stuff like this. Like, look at the guy walking in the background. Look at the frame rate at which he's walking at. And then watch as I get closer to him, the frame rate like speed up. You'll notice him there. It's smoother, smoother, smoother. And then look there, proper smoothness as he walks right by. And then you'll notice it slow down as he literally goes to walk away. Slow. And then as I walk away, he'll get slower and slower again. And like, I get it. Like, you can't have, I suppose, the characters just visible from like miles away. But it's so visible in your field of view. A lot of the stuff not looking great. And that's kind of part of the problem. Okay, so this is interesting. So I've played, what's this? Let's Go, Brilliant Diamond, and then Legend Arceus. Okay, so I didn't realize that. Okay, so I just get a new Rotom phone. That's fine. But yeah, it's a good Pokemon game that could and should be, I think, technically better than it actually is. But I will keep playing it. I'm interested to see them announce the DLC and see what they have to do. And then they roughly, like, they have apologized for some things. It seems like there's at least some sort of a performance patch or something like that coming. We'll see what happens. It's Pokemon. You expect more, and that's why, like, I do lean on the approach of, I don't think it's like the most helpful to just be like, you know, I had a fun time with the game, because it's like, yeah, because the core Pokemon stuff, like the battle system and so on, works. You know it works. There's, you know, all they have to do is put that in this game, but it's the visuals and how that it assists with you interacting with the Pokemon aspects of the game that are the problems. So yeah, that's where I'm pretty much going to wrap up the video. in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on Pokemon Violet, Pokemon Scarlet. Do you think it's one of the better Pokemon games? What do you think about the technical aspects of it? And, you know, where are you in your Pokedex? What are you doing in the game at the moment? Do you do shiny hunting or anything like that? What are your thoughts on what I had to say here? But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.